Okay.
And we are recording with Dr. George Fareed, our second episode that we have done while you are still in a medical office. I think our fifth episode overall, but our second one while you're still at the office. But for everybody listening, all the new listeners, and to establish credibility, because I'm obviously just a 31-year-old with a camera, whereas you are a very accomplished physician, please introduce yourself and tell everyone what your background is.
I'm George Fareed. I'm in family practice, and I'm in a rural area of California in the uh, Southern California in the Imperial Valley. It's called west or east of San Diego and on the border with Mexico. And it was the epicenter for COVID-19 in 2020 for California, and I joined forces with a colleague, Brian Tyson, who may be joining this podcast also tonight, at the inception of the pandemic. And we came up with a protocol based upon the work of Vladimir Zelenko and Didier Raoult with hydroxychloroquine as the backbone, but with the other components that are part of the needed multifaceted treatment, that is zinc, vitamin D, doxycycline or azithromycin, aspirin, and then more since October, ivermectin in addition. And so it's a multifaceted, multi-drug treatment that has been 100% effective when given in the first 5 days of COVID-19. We've stayed with it, and actually we're uh, finishing a book describing our sojourn in successfully treating over 7,000 patients that presents all the trials and tribulations and the frustrations we've had to deal with, and the lack of empathy that's been shown by agencies around the world and around the United States to what's really still the critical part of COVID-19 management, and that's early treatment, early aggressive treatment. And I was telling you, Tommy, just before we started the recording, that I still go cover in the hospital. And so I'm a bit different than other frontline doctors. I do the inpatient work as well as outpatient, and I'm still seeing the vaccinated and unvaccinated admitted and on high flow oxygen and some on ventilators because they didn't get early treatment. And the fatalities that are still occurring around our country and around the world are in patients that didn't get early treatment, that didn't recover from the viral infection when they could have very readily recovered. And if they're high risk, it's even more important that they get early treatment. And we've stayed with our protocol, and we're very proud that we're publishing a book that hopefully will be well read. We're putting a lot of effort into getting it to be high quality, and it's entitled "Coming Out of the COVID Darkness: How Two Doctors Successfully Treated 7,000 Patients" by Brian Tyson and George Fareed. And it's really hopefully going to help in communicating what errors were made, what egregious governmental mistakes have been made, and the fact that we have vaccines. We're very pro-vaccine, but we're pro mainly safe vaccines and ones that are effective in blocking conditions. And so the people need to know that even if they've been vaccinated, they should be treated with the early effective treatments. And now since the first of the year, include monoclonal antibody infusions. But it's just part of the treatment. They need the oral medications in addition, which provide the inhibition of the viral multiplication intracellular, and then that allows for the body to recover and eliminate COVID-19 and prevent the long haul condition from develop or the deterioration and the requirement of hospitalization. That's my background. I trained at Harvard, and I was on the faculty at UCLA and Harvard for many years, and then for 31 years have been in family practice, rural medicine in a very wonderful area of California that was underserved. And I've done a lot of HIV work, a lot of other kinds of medical work in addition, which being here has allowed me to become proficient in. And it's one of the reasons I've been pleased to be here.
And it's do you guys have a release date for when your book's going to come out?
Yeah, we're shooting for December
All
at
right.
the so you'll get an autographed copy, Tommy, when we
Yes, yes. Well, you beat me to it. I was going to ask. I was saying, "Where's my personal copy?" And I can't wait to interview you guys.
we've got a very good person or company that's helping with the final phases of the book, so that the text flows well, and it's has good covers and it has everything that hopefully a bestseller will have to reach a large audience.
Absolutely. For so just before this, I was talking to my mom. My parents are in their 60s, and pretty good shape. If they were to come down with COVID, and the reason why I asked this question, and I've asked it every time I've had you on, but for the average listener who is probably more akin to me than a learned medical professional like you, I'm going to ask what I imagine are probably the most common questions. So for like, let's say my parents get it, they're in a rural area. What exactly do they do? Like you see on the news, or maybe you watch this podcast and you know that they're like, hey, there are doctors that are having these next to miraculous cure rates with their protocols. What would they do, especially when we've heard of stories of, and I think it happened last time on air with you, of pharmacists not being able to fill or unwilling to fill ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and if they go to the doctor, the average response is kind of a drone. Did you get the vaccine? Yes or no? Okay, go home and wait till you can't breathe. What would say, just for example, my parents do? They're sick. They go get a rapid test, says they have COVID. What are the exact steps that they go about? I mean, my parents are lucky. They said if we find out we ever have it, we're calling you. And I'm like, yeah, I'll call Fareed and McCullough, and I'll get you guys some
Yeah,
personal care.
we would come through for you as we do. It's it's so important that the local medical services will provide this protocol or a similar protocol for early effective treatment, a multifaceted sequence drug treatment, and it. And now there's more of an publicity and recognition of the monoclonal antibody infusion that they should avail themselves of receiving and getting that early on for the neutralization of the virus. But then they should have someone that can provide them with the components of the effective antivirals that are taken by mouth for a 5 to 9 day period. And if they don't have physicians in their community, they then have to reach out through telemedicine or through other contacts, such as personal contacts with doctors like myself or Dr. Tyson. And then they have to have a pharmacy. They're mainly the smaller pharmacies. The compounding pharmacies are very likely to be able to dispense the medications. The chain pharmacies are still, unfortunately, in many places under the influence of the FDA dictum, which does not authorize or recommend these agents that are so effective. And they give token recognition to ivermectin now, the NIH does, but it recommends giving 1 dose of of ivermectin in the treatment, not a more intensive treatment with ivermectin. We prefer the combination of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, but there are very good results with fluvoxamine. That is another inhibitor of a specific step of COVID-19, overlapping to some extent with hydroxychloroquine as an antagonist of the sigma 1 receptor intracellular, that's a required receptor for folding of the COVID-19 proteins. But in any case, there are results where one can actually incorporate other agents and combine them all if the condition is worsening. And we found that this Delta variant is a more aggressive form or variant of COVID-19 than the Alpha variant or the primary COVID-19. And so one has to act quickly and even make the treatment a bit prolonged with hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin than one did with the primary variant. of COVID-19. So that's basically what I would recommend. And the doctors are still will that never treated it will continue with their position that it'll just run its course and they'll recover without any specific treatment, or they'll deteriorate and go to the ER, and so they're still stigmatized and they won't change, because if they do, in some ways they'll be admitting that they didn't do what they should have done previously,
Yeah.
when the epidemic was in its initial surges.
Yeah.
And we've had so many fatalities, and they're still increasing, unfortunately, or still continuing, I should say. Yeah, and we should never have reached this point of over almost 800,000 fatalities in the United States, or approaching the 800,000 mark.
It's yesterday I interviewed Lindsay Fitzharris. She's an author, and she wrote all about Joseph Lister and Victorian medicine. Really brutal stuff, before germ theory, and they're just hacking people apart and stuff. But they talk about what a lot of the large resistance that what Joseph Lister wrote about in his diary was. It wasn't even necessarily, there's a component of it that the other doctors at the time, so 1850s to 1880s, they're opposed to the idea of invisible things called germs. But more than that was a ego-based resistance, and it was the idea that a medical professional, Joseph Lister, are telling your higher ups that not only do you have this idea for the antiseptic technique, but also the higher ups, you might have inadvertently been killing most of your patients. And to a doctor, that's right. I mean, understandably so. That's a gut check. I'm killing people. Like, I'm a doctor, and we see that
Yeah, that's
example. Yeah, we see that
antithesis.
example.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good example, very good example, actually, very relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was 150 years ago, and we see that. We can always point back to burning astronomers, burning them at the stake because they said the world was flat, or the world was round, or that the sun didn't revolve around us. But that, I mean, Joseph Lister, that was what, 150 years ago. I mean, that's really right in the rear view mirror, and there was already a huge resistance to it. He was ostracized. He was let go of positions because they didn't want anything to do with his controversial carboxylic acid, which, I mean, just replace carboxylic acid with ivermectin. I mean, we're right there again.
Yes,
And
that's right.
yeah, and I look at everything that's happening. And so, my parents get sick. They tell me, I mean, I'm immediately, they're lucky. They have a fast track. I'm immediately putting them in touch with you or Dr. McCullough, and, I'll throw them in a car and drive them
Yeah,
out there.
that's right. There are a lot of us out there now, a growing number, and that they're all have the same attitude that I do, and that Brian Tyson does, of not waiting on any person that is in need. And we've also, by doing our this type of help to people outside of our area, we set up a nonprofit C19 project through a church in a place called Holtville, a rural farming town nearby, where the pastor has been very dedicated, and actually in monies we ask people to donate to that C19 project instead of paying me or Brian. And they've been able to raise thousands, $30,000 or more during the pandemic, and all of that money has been used to buy the cocktail, buy the protocol, to give out to indigent people, or people that can't get it at their own local pharmacy, and or can't get it because their local doctors aren't in providing that service, that help. And so actually that our Sean Hannity has been a great supporter of this approach of early treatment, and we credit him with doing that. And when I told him about this C19 project, he wrote a check the next day for $15,000 to that project.
It's
So
beautiful.
yeah, it is quite awesome.
That,
And we've treated through about 1,000 patients, and by November we'll reach 1,000 that have benefited from that.
that's
And many
incredible.
will say that their lives were saved because of the treatment.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
so, you know, so my parents are lucky, right? They've got me. for the average listener who maybe they listen to this podcast and their parents are, maybe in equally good health or moderate health, whatever, and they're going, okay, well, I don't know Dr. Fareed personally. I don't have a podcast and I don't talk to these doctors. What do they do? Is there a place they can, you go to your physician or, hey, I know this physician and can you help my brother across the country, and they give you a referral? Is there any place they can go? Is there their website? Do you guys have a portal that they can go to, and can you refer, because maybe they
I
can't
think
afford to drive
I
across
think
the
the
nation?
All Valley Urgent Care Clinic of Bryan has a portal, and that would be
Okay,
where to go in El Centro, California. All Valley Urgent Care
I'll write that
Clinic.
down. I'll write that down right now.
Yeah, and what if in many cases now, I'm recommending that people just get the prescription for the treatment for components of it at least, and have it there at their home and ready
Yeah,
to go if they became symptomatic.
yeah,
So
and
that's the best thing, is to have it when you're traveling or when you're in a situation where you're exposed, that you can get right on the treatment because it's so safe and it's broad spectrum.
yeah.
The treatment is effective for other RNA viruses in addition.
And that's just another aspect of it. It's like, one, it's so wonderful that these things exist, and it's simultaneously so infuriating where it's like, yeah, you could, it's not some like I keep a neurosurgeon on call. It's no,
Yes.
you can get these generic medications, just throw them in your medicine cabinet. You need them, you take
Yeah,
them.
that's right. That's the case. Absolutely.
And it's so infuriating that like these are the things we should be using, that you guys are using, right, with 100% efficacy over 7,000 patients, and that yet other doctors won't fill. And it's kind of got me thinking about like World War II and like Nazi Germany, right? World War II is Hitler kills himself. We start discovering the concentration camps, and there's definitely like, this is terrible, but we're still fighting the Japanese. And it's like, you almost kind of put a pin in this. You're like, Germans are no longer a threat. We got to go do the island hopping campaign and demolish the emperor. But when we finish the war, which is the more pressing thing, we
Mhm.
come back and we go, all right, now what are these concentration camps? Who is involved with? It's not enough that we just beat you. Who is involved in this? And we do the Nuremberg trials, right? It's not right. The immediate thing is curing patients, is treating patients. when
Yes.
when
Yeah.
this is all done, though, I mean, we need to come back to this and go, who was behind the, because it's coordinated, it's not spontaneous, it's a
Yeah,
coordinated suppression.
actually, Peter McCullough gave a terrific lecture just recently that's on Rumble
Okay.
on the therapeutic nihilism and the success of early treatment. But in that lecture, he talked extensively about this background of the sinister uh, facets that have planned or were well before the onset of the pandemic, contributing to what developed. Actually, there's something very big, and he addresses it directly in that lecture. If you, I'll send you a link to
Please
that
do.
on Rumble. I would share that widely.
Please do. Because I mean, like Nazi Germany, we can go roll in with tanks and you beat them and they're done. But I mean, just like right after World War One, I mean, what'd you do right after? You go in, you destroy their armaments industry, and then you also hold accountable and hang by the neck till they're dead a lot of the guys involved, right? If they didn't commit suicide or if they didn't defect to the US with immunity. Because if you
Mhm.
don't remove it, right? I mean, back to Joseph Lister, he did breast surgery on his sister and she survived, but he didn't get 100% of the tissue, and eventually it did come back and he killed her. So it's not enough that you just remove the tumor. You got to get every last cell, because if we just get this, the treatment out there and all of a sudden everyone's cured and COVID's in the rearview mirror, all the people that were involved and responsible for the suppression via big tech of these generic, decades long studied safe medications, they're all still there. And it's the situation's ripe for them to just do it again.
It hopefully not, but it may be. That's a good point, Tommy. I agree with you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And that's, for everybody listening, that was an example of saying hanging till the neck to their dead. I don't need anyone taking that out of
No, no,
context
yeah,
saying it.
exactly.
Got to clarify that on a
Sure,
platform, but
sure,
well, as you
sure.
should. I mean, no, sure, but I'm talking about legal repercussions, not that. But
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems. And now, have you guys seen any? Because my mom was just asking. My mom is one of your biggest fans, which you don't
Oh,
obviously
great.
you don't know. She is one of your
Not,
biggest
oh,
fans.
it's a pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and but she was asking me beforehand, if have you guys seen any direct effects from going back to now about 6 weeks, the Rome summit? Has there been any? Have you seen your treatment being used more? I guess in a more widespread manner. Have other people started to use it? Have there been any effects of the Rome summit?
It's sad. I think about that. Actually, we made a big effort to get the word out, and it reached a large audience. But I don't think it's still impacted as I'd hoped it would. But I think the communications by all the doctors there were in agreement about the authenticity and the success of early treatment. That is the best approach and should have been initiated from the beginning. But in terms of an effect, it's still not what is. Unfortunately, the government and the agencies are the ones that drive the effects and in the Western world, and they're too guilty for what they did. They made mistakes on that it's not happened, unfortunately. But we're going to continue to fight against that injustice.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Good to have a
maybe yeah. I don't think it's a failure. I think it's maybe one wasn't enough. Maybe you got to go back and strike it again.
yeah. Well, it's a big effort to go all the way to Rome and
Yeah, I know.
speak and fly back in a few days to
Yeah,
get
I
that.
know. I know it's easier said than done. Hopefully, maybe
Yeah,
there will be
yeah. And it
something
was great,
stateside.
great people there, very good
Sure,
people.
sure. And
And I hope it is. They're available on YouTube and on the website of it's called the International COVID Summit.com, and the links to all the speeches are there for
okay,
people to see
okay.
and listen to.
Yeah, and it's yeah, hopefully there will be another COVID summit stateside because obviously again it's easier for me to just say out on a whim like, Dr.
Yeah, well,
Freed, go to Rome.
but you look at what happened to Didier Raoult in France, and still is the case where he had the truth and the success and the treatment that should have been used widely throughout France, and they shut him down and punished him badly, and they don't fall back or correct that necessarily even now. But he'll be recognized, and along with Vladimir Zelenko and Peter McCullough as the real leader, the heroes of the pandemic that had the right information and the right solution. And that's the kind of people that should have been leading the agencies all
Yeah,
over the world.
yeah. And I know I've got you for about 5 more minutes, and then I gotta let you go. Um, is so I last Friday I had on Richard Rhodes, who wrote the book Making the Atomic Bomb, super well respected
Mhm.
author. But I had him on and we talked about his newest book called not newest book, one of his newer books called Masters of Death, about the SS Einsatzgruppen, the mobile German death squads, which preceded the
Oh,
concentration camps. The
mhm.
Germans would invade, and then a couple days later, behind the invasion force would come the Einsatzgruppen, and they'd round up all the Jews, take them out in the woods, shoot them in the head, and then dump them into pits. And that was what preceded. And the reason they made the concentration camps was because it would be more efficient, but also the Einsatzgruppen were having trauma. So they wanted to get rid of the trauma by just distancing all demonic evil things.
Mhm.
But I think about that and how on occasion, they would execute, I mean, numbers that boggle the mind, 35,000 people in an afternoon, men, women, children in a huge pit. But every
Yeah.
once in a while, one person would maybe not be killed. Maybe the bullet would hit and go
Mhm.
around the skull, and they would regain consciousness the next day. Just surrounded by dead bodies, but they would
Yeah.
wake up and they would walk for 2 days through the woods and find a village. And there actually is a story of a woman who survived, left for dead, went to a
Hmm.
village, ended up joining the underground resistance movement, survived the war, and then was actually tapped by U.S. intel officers after the war, and she actually testified at the Nuremberg trials, which directly led to the hanging of several of these officers. And to me, I look at that and I look at how dark things are now, where it seems like despite even the Rome summit, despite, Joe Rogan kind of taking Sanjay Gupta to school on his podcast, it still seems that we're kind of fighting this monolith. And I think about
it is.
how much better our scenario is than the girl waking up
Oh
surrounded by
gosh,
bodies.
must say,
But
we
it
have no.
still worked.
Yes.
She got
Yeah.
out and testified.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's a good analogy and good information.
yeah,
Tommy, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, I think I'm going to have to leave. I hate to say that.
Yeah, no, you're good. I know you still got patience.
I'm afraid I do, and I have to go to a dinner later.
You take.
Thank you very much.
Podcast is a luxury. All right, you take care of patients. All right, this is a luxury.
Okay, all right. Stay well, and we'll get that copy of our book that coming out of the COVID darkness.
Yes, sir.
As soon as it's available.
Beautiful. Dr. George Fareed, thank you so much. You're doing God's work. Do not stop fighting, and I will not stop podcasting. And eventually we'll look back and we'll know we did the right thing. God bless you, sir. And I'll email you the episode.